Greetings YouTube and welcome to the Blue Corner and to a Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile, and we're going to be covering pure Thunder Dragons today, as I mentioned on my community page. And it's really convenient that I didn't do this last week like I was going to, because wouldn't you know, Banlist is out and this deck didn't get hit, whereas the other decks in the format did to some degree. Obviously, the decks that were playable last format are still playable to an extent now. Orcust is still very much a thing, and you will have to keep that in the back of your mind. And Sky Striker, I don't know about that one. Like, Striker is obviously going to be played, but I don't know if it's going to be as, like, impactful as it was before, because a Widow Anchor to 1 is a pretty hefty blow. They can't cycle it with multi-roll, which means they gotta find another way to, like, keep on disrupting your board. Like, I think the Widow Anchor hit is a bit more powerful than people will initially think of it, and the fact that Engaged is in multiples is fine, it's whatever. I mean, Colossus is like, lol, okay, and it still allows you to splash Engage plus drones as an engine into a deck if you want to make a fast link too. And then, what else is there to note of this recent ban list? Mali went to 3, but I don't think heroes are going to be good enough. I'm obviously happy that Shurit's to 3, especially now that my friend managed to get me some language swap ones. Thank you very much, dear friend. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, overall, like, this list was okay. I was expecting a bit more, given that it's a fall list. Like, I was expecting Striker to get gutted, but oh well, I own the deck. I guess I'll continue playing it. Orcust is still very much a thing. Dragon Link loses out on Agar Pain, but looking over at Japan, that deck is still playable in spite of not having Agar Pain. They just have more cards than we do, but we'll be getting a couple of them in Chaos Impact. So, that's a deck to keep an eye out for. Salamangreat, in spite of Gazelle and Circle, are still playable at 1 apiece. So we'll continue to see Salamangreat and our Pendulums. Pendulum didn't get hit, and Pendulum will always see play at the beginning and mid of a format. They dropped off during the end of it, but they'll probably come back. Not that this deck minds too much. Like, unless Pendulum opens super broken and they won't have Guard Dragon combo anymore, I think you have a pretty okay matchup. Like, I think you can break their board if you can just get past the Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon and the Mythical Beast Master Cerberus. But in any case, let's get into the profile that I have here, which is Thunder Dragon's post-ban list. This is a basic build, and there's nothing too spicy in here yet because I have no idea what this format is going to take and where this format's going to go, I should say. And so I just went with like a more generic list, and I will make adjustments to it as things go on. So, the monsters: 3 copies of original Thunder Dragon, and then 3 Dark, 3 Roar, 3 Matrix, 3 of Hawk, who I'm shocked is at 3, but okay, fine, I'll go with that. And then 1 duo. I'm not playing Desires in the deck right now, so I'm playing just the 1 duo instead. I might cut Matrix to 2, actually. This is a 42 card list, but when I was playing him at 2, I was almost never seeing it, and I want to at least see 1. And yeah, that's pretty much what I'm going to say here. Like, it's a basic Thunder lineup. And then for normal summons, we've got 3 copies of Battery Man Solar. Hawk is at 3, so this is still like I'm the best normal summon in my opinion. This in Hawk is full combo. This in Dimension Shifter is full combo, and I do believe if you're not maining Shifter, you need to side it because it's good against a lot of the format. Then 2 copies of Lufu Pine, as it's another starter, and this one's a bit better going second. It forces out negations, it can power through some negations. If your opponent kills this thing, you get to add back your banished card, so useful for getting back Darks. And it banishes for cost too, so if they negate it with Strike, Widow Anchor, and Crackdown, then you still at least get a Search or something like that. Then for the hand traps, we'll just get the big one out of the way. So, Phantasme. You can play without Phantasme, but if you do own the card, you really should be using it in here, because Phantasme, aside from just being a good card in general, is really helpful for this deck unbricking, as you can sometimes draw clumpy hands. After all, you're playing all of these big guys, and too many of them in hand means that you just can't do anything, and Phantasme's Mulligan effect is really good for that. This deck also plays the Lure of Darkness, so Phantasme being a dark helps, but if you don't have it, that's fine. You can play more hand traps in here, like Valor and whatnot. As far as my hand traps I am playing, I'm just going with a simple package of 3 Ash. Ash is going to be good, you know, most of the time against a lot of decks, especially post-ban list. And then for My other hand traps, I'm playing Bell at the moment. This is just more of like a quick hot take, as I think Bell will be strong against a lot of things at the beginning of the format, as at least for the mirror match, Bell is good. Against Striker, it's good against Kagari, and stopping Ray if you manage to pop the monster. Against Orcust, you can stop level 3, and that brings the dudes out of the graveyard. Like, you can stop Orcust from doing that. It's good for stopping Call by the Grave when you try and ash your opponent and when they're trying to do combo. And against Dragon Link, it's useful for stopping Pisty, Red Med, and I'm trying to think of some other shit where this will be good. Like, I think it'll be strong right now, and then as the format goes on, this will probably not be as good, and you can just cut it out for stuff that will be more specific. Alright, it's also good against Salamangreat too, because you can stop, what's his face, Sunlight Wolf. And for spells, 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. I think, like, you have to play 3 Allure in this deck, especially if you're playing extra darks like Phantasme and the Aloof Loof lines. I think it's so good. 2 copies of Instant Fusion. I swear by this card as far as this deck goes, as, like, it's good for starting combos, extending combos, and breaking boards, because you have some good Instant Fusion targets. Then 2 copies of Thunderdragon Fusion, 1 Goldsark, and then for traps, 3 copies of Impermanence. I do believe this is just going to be good in general. You can stop a lot of things that Ash can't because it gets around Call by the Grave. It's great for negating an opposing Colossus or Titan on the board when you're going second. And yeah, like, that column negation is also useful every now and then. And lastly, 2 copies of Paleozoic Dynamiscus. This is just a personal choice right now. This could also be Crackdown. I've also seen some OCG lists play Scapegoat, and I'm like, interesting. But regardless, there's 2 of spot here. The idea behind Dynamiscus is that you can discard a card from your hand to target a face-up card your opponent controls and banish it. I believe it's any face-up card, not just monsters. Face-up card in the field, yeah. So it's useful for getting over things that can't be destroyed by effects, i.e. Titan. Like, it's good for stopping the things that Titan cannot, like Dingirsu, Colossus, Titan, Wheelchair Cat, and what have you. Useful for outing Mystic Mine, which this deck normally has a problem against. And yeah, like, it's a pretty solid card. Also, when it's in the graveyard and another trap card is activated, it summons itself back as a level 2 vanilla Aqua Monster, and it gets banished afterwards, so it could be used as link material on the pitch. Again, Crackdown could go in here. I've also seen, like, maned Sanctums with Scythes. Like, you can do a lot of, like, cheeky stuff with this deck once you've got the staples out of the way. And then moving on into the spells, I mean, not the spells, the monsters you summon off the spell sometimes. 3 copies of Titan. I think you need to be playing 3 in this deck right now. 3 copies of Colossus. We are allowed to play it at 3, so you're gonna play it at 3. Then for Instant Fusion targets, Kaminari Attack and Thousand Knives Restrict. Then for the Link monsters, Appaloosa, Borreload, Unicorn, Phoenix, Lambda, Summoner, and Linkuriboh. Yes, I know, people are probably getting triggered by the fact I'm snapping my cards and looking at it. It's just a force of habit. This one's self-explanatory, same for this. This is just, like, in my opinion, the best generic Link 2 with downward pointing arrows for now. We are getting IP Masquerena in the new set, and this deck does play it, as you can make it fairly often. You just can't use tokens to make Masquerena, but she allows you to fast Link summon on your opponent's turn using herself and, like, monsters you control as material. It's basically a formula synchron for Link summons, which is useful for linking into things like Phoenix and Unicorn on your opponent's turn. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Borreload is just good for outing things that can't be destroyed by effects like opposing Titans and Colossus and whatnot. And then Appaloosa is, if you aren't familiar with it, a generic Link 4. It takes 2+ monsters with different names other than tokens. It gains 800 attack for each of its materials, and once per chain, when a monster's effect activates, you can negate the effect and reduce this card's attack by 800. Yes, it is basically Light and Darkness Dragon, although it's much more modernized. You can choose to negate, it's not an auto mandatory thing, and you're not going to lose your board when this Light and Darkness dies. But yeah, as someone who's got a bit of a history with Light and Darkness Dragon, it's neat to see this thing around. Pity about it being so expensive. And that is it for the deck in a nutshell. So yeah, like, Thunder looks to be a pretty good choice at the beginning of this format, but I think that's Thunder as a whole, at least until the ban list ever hits this deck, which probably will happen on the upcoming one in January. But we have until pretty much close to Ignition Assault's release before this deck might be hit, so yeah, I'm going to be getting a decent amount of mileage out of this deck. As far as other decks I own that I might be playing anytime soon, I have Striker, It sucks that Widow Anchor is the one, but I think the deck will still find a way to play. It always does. It is basically Burning Abyss at this point, in which they will never actually kill the deck. It just slap it here and there until it's finally just crept out of the format. And then it'll eventually make its way back in and become the fan favorite of all things. It happened with BA, and I don't see why it will not happen with Striker inevitably down the road. But that is it for that. As a whole, yeah, whoops, I cannot speak right now, but the basic thing is, basically, it is a good time to be playing Thunder, between Thunder Dragon being reprinted and much easier to get before, and Narukami having recently gotten their second wave, and their third waves coming along the way. If you like Lightning Boys, Yu-Gi-Oh! And Vanguard are just good places to be right now. So, that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time, this is Blue Star 9, jacking out.